I would like to take the opportunity to invite and introduce our speakers for today. Our session will be the panel session will be moderated by Professor Shambu Prasad. He is a professor in IRMA, Anand, in Gujarat, and he's worked deeply on the FPOs as well. So I would like to invite Professor Shambu Prasad. Second, I would like to invite Akash Badave. I'd like to invite Akash Badave. He's from Bhoomgadi, which is an FPO in Chhattisgarh, Dantewada district. Next, I would like to invite is Mr. Arun Ambatipudi from Chetna Organics, which is an organization supporting various FPOs in forming new FPOs based out of Andhra Pradesh. So, thank you for joining us today. Professor Shambhu, I hand it over to you.
Thanks a lot, Ria, and thanks to Manage and Dr. Renuka for this opportunity. Uh, we have some very interesting panelists today who have worked not just on FPOs, but they have chosen to keep their FPOs environmentally sustainable. So we will hear a bit about their experiences. But if I may, I'd like to just present a very quick overview. Earlier, we thought we will start with, their presentations, but also share the current work we're doing on FPOs, and I'll touch a little bit on the sustainability. Okay, before we get started, I think I just overheard some discussion on the farm laws, and so one of the things I think we might want to situate the whole discussion on FPOs is very often much of the discussions on natural farming tends to focus a lot on the production side. There are serious issues involved in production. But I think what we are going to see soon is that we might have to get to the stage where this produce that is created by farmers across actually starts being seen in the market in a very different kind of way. And I think the challenge today is to see how is it that we can make markets more sustainable. And market is a very, very big part of our existence as farmers and as part of the ecosystem. So I think on this particular issue, so is this issue idea of sustainability and markets, do they go together? What are the kinds of challenges? I think our panelists will speak a bit more on that. What I'd like to do is just provide you some kind of recent work that IRMA has been doing on FPOs. I think this is something that we have aimed. We have a project called the Small Farm Incomes Project currently. And the idea is to work with civil society organizations across the country on agriculture, of which one of the things is on farmer producer organizations. An important theme that we are also engaging with is on how do you manage sustainable transitions. So I think there was a reference a little bit earlier to the discussion in Sri Lanka. So if this shift towards sustainability is inevitable, partly because of the pressures that we're facing both on the soil front and also the cost of maintaining agriculture in the way we are. 80% of our water is being used in agriculture, and the soil organic content is continuously decreasing. So it is no more a question of whether we have to move towards sustainability, but it's about how and how can systems transform themselves so that it becomes profitable to the farmers. And I think this theme of managing sustainable transition is an area in which in India, we are not doing enough research. I think people in Europe and other places have been doing considerable amount of work, but that's a direction that we'll have to look at in terms of natural farming as well. Yeah, so what I'll talk to you about is some work on that IRMA has been doing on FPOs over the last 6 years or 7 years, for which I've been at IRMA. We'll provide a quick overview of FPOs in India and talk to you about a particular volume, and I will be happy to share, in case it has not already been shared with you, a link of 23 cases of what is happening on the ground on FPOs that we have put together and which we released in November last year as part of the Dr. Varghese Kurian centenary celebrations. And I will take two elements to illustrate some of the challenges that FPOs face, partly through the financial performance of a few of the 15 FPOs that we have been looking at very closely, and then try to talk to you a little bit about the challenges that some of the FPOs have. Some are more sustainable. They want to use that as a way by which they can situate themselves in the market. Yeah, so in a sense, we started work sometime in 2015 where we had a workshop. I think you can see some familiar names there. Pravesh Sharma is there, and Vijay Mahajan and others. So the idea at that point, PD Rai was a member of the Standing Committee on Finance at that time, and the issue was, can we actually put together some inputs for the government to try and take this further. And then we started doing some more grounded level work of what's happening with FPOs. And when the students visited many of these FPOs, the financial health of many of them weren't particularly great. A couple of years later, along with Samaj Pragati, Sahyog and others, we started opening up this discussion on how do we look at this issue of sustainability. Are FPOs supposed to work on their business model largely focused on trying to work on the input side, and sometimes these partnerships with big corporations can help them bring this, but or should FPOs move towards promoting sustainable agriculture? So that's a conversation we had with many organizations. Some of you were represented there as well. And some of the later work was on capacity building. We released this manual on a training of trainers manual, TOT, on capacity building of board of directors and CEOs. And I think this is now being taken in several languages across. It's a very participatory way of taking things further. And the important thing is, as we build the FPO movement, it is very important that academic institutions work very closely with organizations on the ground. And last year we had a discussion, or just before the pandemic, we had a discussion on trying to start our process of a movement on FPOs with 15 cases, which we had earlier done on agri-based social enterprises. So some articles that we have, we're happy to share all of these to you. They're also there on our website. I can share the link with all of you. So the 10 years of FPO movement and more recent article on the government policy on FPOs, why there is a greater need for consultation, or the FPO movement sometimes is going closely towards consultants rather than state capacity being improved. We also put together some articles on finance by Emmanuel Murray, and there is an annotated bibliography on FPOs and so on. So briefly about these 15 case studies that we're working on. Some of them are featured here. Due to the pandemic, we couldn't take up the field visits. We are hoping to have this book ready in the next 6 months or so. The publisher has agreed to do so. So basically, these are cases across the country in different kinds of locations, and they are FPOs that have been at least 3+ years in operation. So they are before the 10,000 FPO policy scheme. Some of them have focused a lot on trying to take sustainability forward. And, I'll come back to this a bit later. So each of this, the important part is these cases tell us about what is happening on the ground. It is not a landscape study of what is overall scenario, but how is it that they're able to access finance? What are the challenges that they're facing with governance? How are they dealing with markets? And we also have 3 cases on the federations of FPOs in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra. We've got about 31 or 32 blogs on collective enterprises, which I would encourage all of you to have a look. I can share the link. And we've started having a series of conversations with the CEOs of FPOs. The last one that we had was with Krishna Prasad, whom you all heard a bit earlier. The idea is the perspectives of those CEOs who have been working with an FPO for a long time. How do they manage this, this complex organization, and how do they see the whole ecosystem as we go forward? So we had a quick discussion on beyond farm bill, on farm laws, and I think potentially, I don't think that potential has anywhere been close to being realized. So you have these two ends of discussions. Someone says that it is the 1991 moment in agriculture, and the other view is that this is actually the farm laws is going to enable a corporate takeover of agriculture. What we would suggest is, if we build good member-based institutions, we might be able to find a via media between these two highly polarized positions. And around the farm laws was when the FPO policy was also released, but that didn't get enough attention. Though FPOs have been invoked to support the farm laws in some sense, and there are some quotes here that the government of India is betting on FPOs to double farm incomes. Evidence on this is not very strong. And here's a quotation by the Minister of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare that FPOs can be a big force, and so on. So where are we with regard to the FPOs? These are slightly outdated figures. We've got more recent ones, but starting from about 17 FPOs that were there in 2006 through Madhya Pradesh. So that was the Madhya Pradesh model through the District Poverty Initiative Program. SFAC has created about close to 900 and NABARD about 3,900 odd FPOs. The National Dairy Development Board through its subsidiary, the National Dairy Services, have been 15. Some of them have reached huge turnovers in terms of, of even up to 5,000 crores. And the NRLM has probably supported about 177 to maybe about 200 or so. State governments have done a similar number as well. Dairy FPOs have been very large, extremely well invested in crores. Even if you take DPIP in the early part of the FPO movement, they were able to, an FPO was able to receive close to 50 lakhs in about 5 years. And the NABARD scheme of the Produce Fund has been a case of underinvestment, 9 lakhs in 3 years. And maybe this is increasing now in the current scheme, but it's still not clear if all of it is actually going to go to the institution or the ones promoting them. There's a change in the policy. Earlier, equity grant was only possible if you had 1,000 members in the FPO. The calculation, NABARD's average size was about 445 or so. And today you can get an equity grant with even 300 members. At the end of 2021, you could see that India had about 14,000 odd FPOs and 11,000 of them were registered in 2016-17. And you probably have another of 500 or so under the Cooperative Act. It's during the pandemic we actually had surprisingly over 6,000 FPOs that got registered as companies in the last year. Most of these FPOs come from 10 states, Maharashtra alone accounting for about 34% of these FPOs. And NABARD has the widest spread because of its presence across and has worked with about 768 promoting institutions in 484 districts. These are figures that you probably are aware, just to show that things have grown a lot. And Maharashtra and UP have been number 1 and 2 in the FPO scenario. But the question often is, are FPOs still born? So they are truly small. They're paid up share capital. Nearly 80% of them, the investment by the farmers have been less than rupees a lakh. They have a potential to grow. 79% of them have moved to the 5 to 25 lakhs. But credit is a very serious issue with regard to FPOs. It's a constant kind of discussion. We had this discussion a few days back with the FICCI task force on FPOs as well in Delhi. Wherever we go, the credit issue has not really been solved. I think we are talking of something close to 750 crores in the last financial year that came through various NBFCs. Banks are still reluctant to provide credit to FPOs. A study which has not been released seems to indicate that only 5% of the FPOs have been able to access debt capital. And there are some big players, Naab Kisan being the biggest of the lot. And, then you have Samunnati and so on. So there is no ease of doing business for FPOs. Sometimes there is an issue with single window clearance, all talked about for industry, but not necessarily for FPOs. When we had these new operational guidelines, we tried having a consultation. Some of the members in this also participated. The challenge essentially is that the target approach is changing the nature of how we look at FPOs. So towards the last part, you see government is pushing one district, one product, but it's actually the members who should be in a position to decide what works for them. And that is linked strongly to what is the market's choice also of what is happening. So you have examples. Punjab farmers wanted to start a farmer producer company in their village, but that area has been given to NCDC to form a cooperative. A contrasting picture, the tribal farmers in Dahod want to start a, a cooperative because they feel registrar of companies is too difficult and a language that the tribal farmers may not be able to cope with. But they are being pushed in that direction, and there are issues with the ROC in terms of registration. So I'll skip this bit, which has some details on the ongoing multi-case case study. The point essentially is, can FPOs grow to scale without investments or incubation? So you take the story of National Dairy Development Support, services. You have a huge amount of investment. So we do need an NDDB type institution which led to the growth of the milk revolution. And we don't have something similar here. And some say that you would need at least 1 crore of rupees for over a period of 5 to 8 years. Arun will tell us a little bit more about his own experiences with Chetna Organic. And without access to capital, growing an FPO becomes a big issue. The bedrock of a good FPO is strong local institutions, and it is important for us to understand that this is a public investment. Today, a collective institution of farmers is taxed, whereas an individual agricultural income is not taxed. And I think we need to appreciate that if we were to move towards reduction of subsidies, etc., one of the ways is to invest in public institutions, and this is to be treated as a public good. There's some interesting examples of collaboration. One of them is NAFED working with Maha FPC in creating Maha Onion, in creating the infrastructure at the village level. And I think today there's very little talk about what's happening to the Grameen in terms of creating infrastructure. I think the marketing infrastructure that needs to be done at local levels is something that's critical. Just give you an example. I think many people producing organic produce, I've seen this happen in Odisha, extremely good pineapple. It goes to, say, Vishakhapatnam or some other place. There is no distinction between an organic pineapple and inorganic pineapple, and they're both selling at the same kind of rate. I think we need to have markets that can do processing, grading at the local level, and marketing infrastructure is something that needs investments on. Some governments have supportive state policies, and if there are, they seem to be working better. Yeah, so FPOs can grow, but they face serious challenges. I don't want to, get into the details here. Very few of these FPOs are profitable from year one. Like startups, they need investments and they need a lot of resilience to tide over a bad year. And I'll show you some examples of this too. FPOs are much more complex than SHGs. They need time to experiment, innovate, and build their business models. These are democratic member-owned institutions. They cannot be built by decree through targets. So we are hearing many instances where people are being pushed saying you first register and then you think of your business model, or you first register and then do social mobilization. I think we shouldn't be doing this because we're going to end up with a high mortality of FPOs if we go in the same manner. FPOs are not the solution for all the ills in the farming sector, so it is wrong to treat it as a magic or a silver bullet. There are other issues as well. They can only play an enabling kind of role. And this is an indication of the kind of fluctuating fortunes that FPOs often have. So if we look at a few of these FPOs listed here, interestingly, Mahila Umang, which is in green color, has chosen to be very sustainable. So the revenue is somewhat stable. So sometimes you have these huge fluctuations. The one you see for Krishi Dan is the public procurement of PDS in 1 year of MSP. 1 year the government is taking it, next year it doesn't, works well for the farmers, disastrous for, as a business model for the FPO in some sense. So, Desi seeds, again, a very consistent kind of growth. So it's a choice for the FPO to see whether you want abnormal profits or you want to try and ensure that it is reasonably consistent and growing at the same time. And you can see very few FPOs have been able to have a consistent revenue, lots of fluctuations. If you look at profit, it becomes even more complicated because you see many of them had bad years there's no guarantee. It's unlike milk where things are always moving up. I think there's always been a certain amount of fluctuation. Finally, on this issue of environmental sustainability, we asked this question. So FPOs play a very important role in stabilizing production too. It's not just market. So promotion of sustainable agriculture is the beginning. Integration with the market is very key. So some of the FPOs have pushed this majorly in their work. So Krishidan started with this slogan of Takao Keti and Kamau Keti. Desi seeds, you heard Krishna Prasad speak about it earlier. So even before the FPO is born, it's good to have a lot of activity prior to it. And that is the kind of social base on which you can root sustainability. So you have to create a natural capital as a prerequisite for consolidating social capital, especially in hilly areas and rain-fed areas. Focus more on sustainability over profit. Ram Rahim did commodity trading at one point, but then they said that's kind of disrupting their model, and they moved away from soybean and started getting into non-pesticidal management produce, or what's today called nature positive in some sense. Mahila Umang as well, they're not looking for abnormal profits. Maybe the direction in we seek for business models might be different. Uh, it can be an important differentiator in the market. And we asked this question. So few of them are using it as a differentiator in market. So do you use sustainability as a differentiator in the market? For currently, many of the FPOs do not see sustainability as an important issue, but I think we need to move to a situation where the new FPOs that are being formed with the movement on natural farming actually takes the issue of sustainability much more seriously. So sustainability is an imperative. It's no more a hobby or fad anymore. Uh, I'll skip this on the overview of the CBO architecture, and just to indicate to you that institutions like FWWB and others are talking about, how do you manage climate risk and adaptation, and have this dialogue with financial institutions. So you're free to write to us anytime at this link. Arun and Akash, who will be able to give us much more insights on what's happening on the ground.
Sir, I have a question that
Yes,
government policy is a target of creating the one FPO per district or another thing. And therefore, the one of the failure reason is that all work is on the target oriented, not the quality oriented. Most if it will be made that this quality must be, because I have seen it. I have will be approached for forming a FPO, but I denied it because we need a time, we need a buffer time so to make a quality FPO. And the result also reflecting the same thing that 80 or 85% are on the negative side or non-working. So make a presentation to the government that do it in a quality work and not in the target. Target always doing the bad things.
absolutely, Rajinder ji. I think this is something that is slowly dawning on the government. The people talk to you informally about it, but in such forums, we shouldn't be hesitating to say that this
Hmm.
approach is likely to create difficulties. We should not underestimate the time taken for an FPO to grow. And I've looked at agri-based social enterprises earlier. Even for an agri-based social enterprise which is not into ag tech and other kinds of things, it takes at least 3 to 5 years for them to achieve a certain amount of stability. And FPOs also need that initial part, and we are getting some lessons on how to go ahead. So you're not going to get profitability in 1 year. Extreme focus on business plans is also wrong, because commodities markets keep changing. The FPO should have the flexibility to work around. It's important to focus on business acumen rather than just the business plan. I think there's enough knowledge today in the ecosystem to drive this shift. How do we make FPO sustainable?
Voice is breaking
And
And
down.
I
one
think
more
we have
thing
work
that
to work.
most of the FPOs which are created, they are by the their money lenders or the artias. They round up their customers and entered and these things. Most of the scene I have seen this.
Absolutely. I think we are finding more evidence as and when you have targets, the inclusion of small and marginal farmers might decrease. So, in a sense, if we believe in sustainable agriculture, natural farming, we'll have to build institutions that might be somewhat different. Government, whether it's the state or the central, can play some sort of an enabling role, and therefore, having policy level dialogues at the state level becomes quite important, and we should work towards that.
Sir, can I add
Dr. Rao here. I am from IIHR, Principal Scientist. See, now the imperative what we have been addressing, are we looking at natural farming to reduce cost and improve sustainability, or the FPO is a totally business model, a profit-oriented company as per the Companies Act. See, unless you come out with a diversified and the products and all that, why should it actually go into an FPO model? Natural farming is to bring Atmanirbhar Bharat and Paramparagat Krishi, and these are just to reduce the input cost and reduce the dependence on external things. Are we looking at the profit or are we looking at the sustainability? Why an FPO at all is the question.
Dr. Rao, I think you raise a very important question. So the point that you would like to have a discussion around is sustainability, financial, or this thing against the concept of, markets as well. And I think we'll get a better understanding of this after we hear the experiences of both Akash and Arun, who have actually tried showing that it is indeed possible to have a sustainable FPO that is both profitable and good for the planet. So we may actually end up with a triple bottom line through an FPO. But the idea is not to burden. See, an FPO is a very small and nascent institution. The challenge often we have is we burden it with too much expectations. They have to do this, they have to do that, they have to do everything. Now, so how do we set these basic principles at the start? So, for example, a few years back, there was a lot of discussion that you just have to do aggregation and then a company will come and buy and things work well. Evidence on the ground suggests that it is not actually adding to any amount of income to the farmers. It solves the problem of supply chain for the corporates, but doesn't necessarily add to substantial value here. How do you try and create value and how do you make this value sustainable is an issue. What we are seeing from the ground is that, even we want to make a shift from cooperatives to companies. Yesterday I was having a discussion, in some cases, Madhya Pradesh, all the attempts to try and get small and marginal farmers access to credit through cooperatives, I think the reach in 2006 was something like 11%. Today, the small and marginal farmers are finding that the company works better for them. Why should we predetermine which form they should have? Then the point we are making is let's leave the choice to the farmers. If they find that local context a cooperative works, good. In fact, in many places, the Mutually Aided Cooperative Societies Act is actually working much better in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and a few other states. So we'll have to actually look at things a bit more from what evidence we have on the ground. So over to you. Are we starting with Arun or with Akash?
Thank you all for having me in. Yeah, the first slide is just an overview of the number of years that have been in the system. So the structure for us is that, I'll go to the next slide so that it's easier for you to understand. So we are not just operational in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. Chetna is basically an umbrella network of various farmer producer organizations. I would not call all of them FPCs. There are about 17 FPOs under this umbrella, which includes a national level federated body in Hyderabad, which is registered in Hyderabad. So basically there are about 7 FPOs in Orissa, 4 in Maharashtra, and about 6 in Telangana. So, as Shambuji presented, that the aim is not to just set up FPCs just because there is a target set up by NABARD or a target set up by government. So, what we have been doing is to work around different programs. So the work on the ground becomes critical before we even initiate FPCs. So our FPCs are built around various programs, that we implement on the ground, whether it is watersheds under IGWDP in Telangana, or through the MKSP program, the Mahila Kishan Sashakti Karan Pariyojana program that we undertook in Orissa, or the OTLP watersheds program in Orissa, or be it the IFAD paint projects in Maharashtra, or be it the Jaivik Sheti mission program that we are currently undertaking in Maharashtra. So they are built on these platforms. So we are not just setting up FPCs just for the sake of setting up FPCs, and there is a government target. So if you look at the number of programs that we have been implementing, whether it is an organic farming or regenerative agriculture or watersheds, there could be more than 30 to 40 programs that we implement. So that is why we have a farmer base of nearly 35,000 farmers across these 3 states, where we have set up local level FPCs or FPOs at cluster level. So not necessarily that we have registered all these as farmer producer companies under the Company Act. Some of them have been registered under a Max Act, which are actually more successful for us in Telangana. Then we have initiated in Orissa. We had initially started promoting them as self-help group cooperatives, which is more or less like a liberal under the Liberal Cooperative Act. The problem that we had with that was it was repealed in 2013-14 by the government. So then we had to convert them into FPCs. We have not been able to convert them into FPCs, but we had to set up new FPCs. So on the FPCs or the FPOs, however we call them, what we have realized, if it is in the space of natural farming, or you can call it organic farming, farmers also need markets, because they are not just producing these for consumption alone. So while they are saving costs in agriculture, but FPCs, the role of FPOs is also to see that the large volumes of produce that comes out of their members has to be, end of the day, marketed. It has to go for output marketing more than input marketing. So what we have also realized during this journey since 2007, when we started establishing FPCs, is that FPCs can only sustain when you have not just share capitals, but also FPCs need to have processing units and infrastructure. So within 7 of these FPCs, we have put in place a necessary infrastructure like dal mills or rice mills, training centers, then processing units, then produce vermicompost producing units, or even bio input producing units. Then for research, especially high-tech poly houses, warehousing through NABARD schemes, using NABARD warehousing facility. So not having infrastructure does not make farmers interested in collective bargaining or joining collectively to work in the supply chain process. Secondly, what we have also realized, that why FPOs are important, because farmers in the conventional agri markets are invisible. So once they are together, or when they are organized into SHGs and FPOs, I think they have a better bargaining position. And that we have seen through setting up value chains where farmers are able to negotiate better, and where you can see that where also the people on the top end of the market, especially whether it is the brands or retailers, are able to invest in some of these farmer level infrastructure. So we have and I would also say that while most of our, at least 75% of our current business is around marketing of processing and marketing of organic, fair trade, and regenerative cotton, 25% of it is in food crops. And while I would like to say that yes, there are challenges with in the initial years, and the gestation period for FPOs is long, and one cannot even assume that FPOs will become sustainable in 3 to 5 years. So there needs to be a hand-holding mechanism to for at least 7 years or so before FPOs can start making profits, before FPOs can even access loans from banks or even from NBFCs without collateral, without offering any collateral. So I would say in the initial, when we set up our national level FPO in Hyderabad called Chetna Organic Agriculture Producer Company, which is a federation, which has actually been federated by 13 FPOs, local level FPOs across these 3 states. So initially, they were losses that we made, but there were also, we had support from the Rabobank Foundation and others who held us. So there was a lot of collateral guarantees that were offered by not only the foundations like Rabobank and others, but also by our buyers. So they also offered collateral. So what initially started in 2009 or 10 when we set up without even having access to a loan of more than 50 lakhs at that time from NABARD. Today, our FPO is able to access loans without even giving any collateral, no collateral from even the producer company. We are able to access loans of up to 12 to 14 crores as on date, and yes, initial losses because of various reasons, market volatilities. But we now see that among our 16 FPOs, 7 FPOs are able to have a turnover of anything between 1 to 7 crores, 1 to 8 crores, I would say, with profits ranging from 25 lakhs to 50 lakhs. And for the national level FPO, our turnover, despite COVID situation, the year before, 2020 and 21, our turnover has remained stable between 35 to 40 crores, and a profit after taxes close to 60 lakhs. Because what we are trying to do is to reduce our profits by plowing in those profits into infrastructure, into investments in infrastructure at local level for these organizations. So I would say it is access to loans will always be a challenge, and when we are actually getting into stable markets like cotton, which is I think more stable because there is a lot of traceability that people demand, and which you can, if you can provide through, let us say, tools that customized detailed MIRP and ERP systems that we have put in place at Chetna, where everything is, all the market produce that is produced at our member level is traceable to the last mile, including the processing and then going up to the markets. Then there is a better scope and better chance of sustaining. So I would say, despite COVID, while most companies have demanded, from banks for waivers, or even demanded that they would not be able to pay loans, we had paid back all our loans without default, and that can even be, checked with NAPKISAN and others, because NAPKISAN happens to be one of our biggest supporters in terms of loan access to provision of loans. So, a lot of times in the organic space, in the organic natural farming space, as much as consumers need good, organic food, good food, I think farmers also need access to good markets. So we believe in actually going for fair markets, better markets, where farmers are in a position to negotiate their price. So if you even see the kind of traceability that is demanded by buyers, they want us to provide them with GPS locations of the farms, farmer details, complete farmer details, impact on the ground. So there are things that you can put in FPOs, but not all FPOs that you start with can put all this without funding. So we generate a lot of funding that is invested back in these developmental projects to set up FPOs. So in the cotton space, if you can see how that fund is, so for every garment that is sold or produced from our cotton in different countries, a part of it is plowed back for setting up infrastructure at the local level, or for livestock or for other purposes. And also, our learnings have been that over time we have also seen that some FPOs have moved away from actually aggregating and becoming trainers, training organizations for projects. So we don't hold them. They have to look at their own sustainability. Some members have moved, and some members, say one member in Karimnagar, post that availability of water through the government program, the Kaleshwaram project, farmers have moved from growing other crops to mainly organic paddy, and gone into mainly dairy. So they have become independent. So they are not part. I mean, they're part of the network, but they have become an independent FPO, sustaining on their own. So I would say it's not an easy journey unless investments are made, and more so when you're getting into food crops. The food crops business is not as settled, and working with retailers is also not as easy, because they have not yet moved from a conventional trading model to I would say a sustainable trading model. So it's still that 60-day credit period that you have to offer them. So it all depends. So each FPO has to find its own, I would say, ways and means of sustainability.
Yes, Arun, I think there's one question, or you can take on questions as we go along as well. I think
Yeah.
there was a clarificatory question from Ajit Sharma on, are you practicing natural farming in polyhouses? So he had a clarification that might be because you mentioned polyhouses. Anything you want to?
No, sir, we are not practicing natural farming in polyhouses. The polyhouses have been set up for a specific seed research, because of the fact that most of the cotton seed in India is GMOs. We are in a longer term collaboration with FIBL Switzerland, PDKV Akola, Jabalpur University, and UA University of Agriculture Sciences Dharwad, in a longer term research around non-GMO cotton genotypes. So one of the partners in that also happens to be Center for Sustainable Agriculture. So there are about 11 partners, and this is mainly for varietal trials and identification and release of non-GMO cotton varieties that are suitable for different agroclimatic conditions.
Thanks, Arun. Maybe you could stop sharing and we can get back into discussion mode. Yeah, thanks. Any clarificatory questions? Otherwise, we'll take more substantive ones, including comments a bit later. And some of us can continue to respond on chat. So may I now request, so we have heard a story of Chetna Organic working in 3 states in a combination of both FPOs and cooperatives strongly linked to the market, working not just in cotton, but also with pulses and other commodities. So usually, like many businesses, you start with something and you build along. And there is a growth and diversification that you can see. It's a long history, I think 13 to 15 years of operation. So may I now request Akash to share his one is much more focused. The work of the producer company is again working on sustainable agriculture, restricted to one state, possibly one district, and engaging with the market. Over to you, Akash. And it's of course a much more recent history as opposed to Chetna Organic.
Yes,
No,
thank you, Professor.
a quick reaction before we deliberate. See, now the profit versus natural farming as a movement. See, there are 2 issues where
Dr. Rao, can I request you to please hold on for comments, because let's hear Akash as well. Otherwise, we'll eat into his time. So we can take it up as soon as his presentation is done.
I stay in Dantewada, so network has its own issues. So every time I use WebEx, I have to do these checkings to ensure that everything is working. So thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for the wonderful sharing from Arun's side. Also, Chetna Organic has been one of the inspirations for us also regarding what we are doing in Dantewada. So I'll just give a quick glance about what Dantewada is. It's a remote district based in south of Chhattisgarh, primarily primarily dominated by tribal communities called Mudia and Madia Gonds. 70% of the population is tribal, 60% of the land is covered by the forest. And if you see rural areas, more than 80% population is the tribal. And along with that, various human development indicators are quite low in Dantewada. If you see, literacy is around 42%, population, the poverty is below 57, around 57%. 50% of the children are stunted and 70% of women are anemic. So that kind of a socio-economic indicators you can find in Dantewada, and that is the context where we are working. And incidentally, it is also one of the districts affected most by the violence of left-wing extremism in India. There are many challenges that the tribal or farming communities face in Dantewada, areas like Dantewada. The livelihoods are primarily dependent on agriculture and forest. And then over the period of time, the degeneration of forest, undulating terrain, loss of traditional seeds and food crops because of external market pressures, low productivity of traditional farming systems, climate change, erratic rains, which we have been observing since last few years, loss of community grazing practices, and in fact, many traditional way of farming, which were actually good, so loss of that, lack of know-how about improved farming methods to increase the productivity, and weak market linkages. So various challenges farming community faces here, and as a result of which there is low income, food insufficiency. Yeah. So what we've been trying to do is addressing these weaknesses and issues. There are also strengths in the community that we are working, and how do we build on these strengths to be able to develop a sustainable livelihood opportunities for the farmers. So as compared to the issues, there are many strengths, inherent strengths, and I think what is important is to build on the strengths of the community. So in Dantewada, we have ample rains. Large number of farmers are by default organic farmers. There is a rich diversity of indigenous varieties. Millets are still being grown by the farmers. There is growing demand for organic food. And then there are other advantages as well. And what we are trying to do is to build on these strengths and opportunities in order to achieve four major objectives: food security for the community, nutritional security, income sufficiency, and then empowerment to connect to the markets. Why I'm saying this is because the sequence of the objectives and the has to be in this fashion when we are working with one of the most vulnerable communities in India. And many times when we discuss about FPOs, the focus of the discussion becomes dominated by the markets. Yeah, or in fact, when we talk about farmers, markets become very important aspect in the discussion. But when we work with very vulnerable communities who are also into farming as an important source of livelihood, food security, nutritional security has to get primary importance first. What we have tried to do is to build an ecosystem from seeds to market which supports the farmer, and FPO is one part of that ecosystem. But apart from that, there is an organization called Nirman, and there is a lot of support from local district administration, which is trying to provide support to be able to build that kind of an ecosystem. And this is something we have observed. And if you see this diagram, mobilizing farmers, training and capacity building, productivity enhancement, having a strong presence of community resource persons in the field, organic certification, providing some kind of a business development support, and convergence with the government schemes. That kind of a support is required for the farmer, even if he or she has to adopt organic farming or natural farming practices. But on other hand, if only this is not going to be sufficient, and on another hand, there can be a lot of value added to the ecosystem by a farmers collective or an FPO if is being formed over the period of time while taking these efforts. So what an FPO has been doing in Dantewada, which is which is providing a platform for production and circulation of desi seeds. There are hardly any platforms which make it easy for the farmers to access desi seeds, and then that becomes a challenge. So that is something FPO is trying to do. Production of organic inputs and then making it available in turn again in the community. So local level production and then local level circulation of organic inputs. And then a system of aggregation of the produce at the village level. Villages in Dantewada are very remote. Farmers hardly have any means to take their produce even to the mandi. There is only one mandi, not even functional in Dantewada. So most of the trade is dependent on the local traders. So a system of aggregation of the produce at village level, local level value addition, processing, and then fair market linkage. And then a very important aspect where a lot of diversity and indigenous crops being grown by the farmers need to be promoted in the external market. Then only there will be a demand, and then that will in turn give incentive to the farmers to keep on growing and conserving those seeds, which is a very important aspect of natural farming, I believe. So these kind of ecosystem services being provided to the farmers to establish from seeds to market support system. This is something we are trying to do. This work in fact started in 2000, a little bit before 2015, with a lot of initiative from the local district administration. Initially, various departments were roped in. The work started with around 8 to 10 villages, then gradually expanded to 40 villages. Currently, there are 110 villages in Dantewada where no farmers have used any chemical inputs from last 5 years, and there is a large area we are trying to convert into natural farming. This is what we have been able to do. As compared to Chetna Organics, we are quite new, and so there is a cadre of 130 resource persons established in the villages of Dantewada to be able to work with farmers, give them hand-holding support. This cadre is supported by Nirman, but that cadre works very closely with the FPO as well. And what our idea is, over the period of time, trying to develop business models and innovation at the level of the community institution as to how these hand-holding support system can also be absorbed to some extent at the FPO level, and to some extent at the voluntary or some other kind of a community-based institution. But what is very important is to continue having a hand-holding support mechanism to the farmers at the village level, and what FPO can play a role in ensuring that happens. There are around 9,800 farmers under PGS organic certification. All of the farmers have turned PGS organic this year. And we have ensured around circulation of 211 quintals of organic indigenous seeds among the farmers through FPOs. So FPO aggregates the produce of the farmers, does the grading. Those seeds are again made available to the farmers, those who want to use, and some of those organic indigenous seeds are also made available through certain government programs where they are also trying to promote organic farming, like Jaivik Kheti Mission, like PKVY. Dantewada is the only district in Chhattisgarh where no sale, promotion, or distribution of chemical inputs is being done by any government agency or any government society in Dantewada. Neither have the private input shops been given licenses, renewed licenses after farmers' demand since last 5 years. The farmers and Gram Panchayat bodies of 110 villages have passed resolutions to be declared as organic. And then we have sent a proposal for large area certification, new guidelines sent under released under PGS organic certification program recently by Government of India, and a proposal for around 65,000 hectares has been sent. This is the largest proposal which Government of India has received so far. And then the FPO, Bhoomgadi, which derives its name from a local tribal post-harvest festival. So farmers only decided this name. There are 3,000 members. We are very new so far. So turnover stands currently around 70 lakh. But what we have done is focused on local level value addition and then marketing of those produce across various cities in India, and less on bulk commodity trade. and then that kind of local value addition provides employment to around 20 village women and youth. This is just a glimpse of the map of Dantewada, where the green patches that you are able to see are those villages where no chemical inputs have been used for last 5 years, and a proposal has been sent for these villages to be declared as organic. There are other villages, so around 90 villages in Dantewada, where, as per our assessment, less than 5 farmers use chemical inputs. And then there are around 25 villages where more than 10 farmers use chemical inputs. So, this is primarily also because of the traditions of the tribal communities, their close connect to the nature, the remoteness. So there are many factors, but what I would also want to underline is there are many similar tribal areas in central India where the usage of chemical inputs is very low. The natural ecosystem is still much well preserved. The deterioration of the soil and surrounding agroecology is not there much. And these areas can come as to be areas where promotion of natural farming can happen, and through that the strengthening of livelihood of the farmers can happen. These are just photographs. This is an old presentation, so I'm using it again so you can just have a look. The community resource persons getting trained, the planning at the village level to identify which patches are connected to each other and which patches should be taken up for organic certification. Again, training of farmers in SRI, making pest repellents, various things. So this is a broad structure of Bhoomgadi. There are farmers and women self-help groups at the village level. There are directors from, so these farmer groups are divided into clusters, and from each cluster there are board of directors nominated by these groups. The nomination process is through consensus. The farmers and women self-help group, the presidents and secretaries are supposed to sit together and then nominate one person amongst them to be on the board. The rotation of the board happens. The changes in the board of directors happens on a rotational basis, so that there is continuity of learnings and not in one go entire board is changed. I think that is important to ensure that the learnings from old board members get passed on to the new board members. And then Bhoomgadi is trying to connect to the market the produce of the farmers. We have around 2,727 farmers formally registered and 300 more farmers under the process of registration. 80% of these farmers are tribal, and around 775. So it's a mix of male and female members. We have been able to raise a paid up capital of around 29 lakh so far. This is just the team structure. 95% of the team working with Bhoomgadi is locally from Dantewada. That is a challenge and also a strength, we believe. Having the skill sets available locally at remote places of Dantewada, starting even from basic accounting practices, becomes very challenging. But if we have to ensure that the entity survives and is sustainable, having local community on board is very important, even as the team structure. This is the basic modus operandi as to how we work. Finalization of procurement rates happen in consultation with farmers in AGM. So we do all the market analysis, market trend analysis, and everything, and we present our understanding, and we the board of directors present what kind of procurement rates can be for this year, and those procurement rates are, there is a consultation in AGM, and then those procurement rates are finalized. Procurement happens at village level, so we do procurement at 127 villages. This year we have done some innovation and tried to do it at cluster level to save costs. The payments of the farmers are done in the accounts. Storages are done at the cluster level godowns across the district, and then there is a centralized processing rate in Dantewada. This is just a picture of women members approving the procurement rates of Bhoomgadi. What we have seen is this is just a comparison of procurement rates compared to local hard bazaar rates. So coarse paddy, fine paddy, red paddy. So those farmers who are not able to get connected to the government procurement systems have to sell off their produce in the open market to local traders. and then there they get quite low procurement rates. And whereas compared to that, the FPO, Bhoomgadi, is able to offer them rates which are ranging from 20% to around 60% higher. The caveat is it is also linked to the kind of scales that we are dealing with currently. So not necessarily if the scales go very high, there is a possibility that these kind of rates may come down a little bit, and the premium offered to the farmers may also come down a little bit. For some commodities, there was no prior market linkage available. And what used to happen is because there is no market linkage available, because of external market forces, farmers used to choose those varieties which are being demanded by the farmer market, or which are better for them in terms of market linkage. So adoption of improved or hybrid seeds and things like that, and then that resulting into gradual erosion of huge and beautiful diversity of paddy and various other crops. What we have been trying to do is trying to connect market linkage for those kind of varieties also, which didn't exist before, and then that acting as an incentive for the farmer to continue growing those varieties, and then resulting into conservation of those varieties and crops, and then resulting into better climate resilience, nutritional profile in the farmer's diet as well. So there are many products for which there was no organized market available previously, and then Bhoomgadi is trying to make that available. You can see Bhoomgadi is into a platitude of commodities. So we have consciously tried to, in the initial times, not focus on a single commodity or very small number of commodities, but trying to connect to the market all that the farmers are growing, because there is a lot of diversity being grown in the fields, and then the FPO has to be in a position to give farmers support on that front. This is the product range of Bhoomgadi. So again, a lot of products and varieties being marketed in aromatic rice to pulses and millets to spices. There is a brand called Adim, under which we are marketing our products in around 38 cities in 18 states. We are selling our products in Tribes India stores. And then there are buyers, starting from organic stores to chains to consumer groups and institutional buyers as well. We are at a nascent stage. So in 1920, our turnover was around 50 lakh through sales. 2021 70 lakh, and this year we have touched around 95 lakh end of 2022. There are number of cities where we are selling our produce. There is a small cafe which we are operating in Dantewada that tries to promote through Bhoomgadi, that tries to promote local ingredients, traditional ingredients, and what kind of new modern recipes can be made through those ingredients, and consumption of those ingredients be made popular. People have forgotten how to consume red rice, how to consume millets, and if you don't offer them ways to consume them nicely, then only they'll become popular. This is something we are trying to do in Dantewada. This is just a glimpse, a presentation of the Agriculture Ministry of Chhattisgarh, showing the consumption of urea, DAP, and other chemicals in Dantewada. The brand Adim was unveiled by the erstwhile Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh. This is the Niti Aayog CEO interacting with the farmers. This is where the farmers themselves, so I was interacting with the farmers before the CEO was supposed to come, and I had requested to the farmers that you please be open and request whatever things that you want to share. I mean, don't be shy that the farmer from a tribal farmer from Dantewada, there is no reason he or she cannot interact with the CEO of Niti Aayog. So one farmer stood up in that interaction and said that, we have seen Sikkim as a completely organic state, and we would like to visit that and see how they are doing, so that we can try to convert Dantewada into an organic district. So that was one demand by the farmer. Another demand made was, the government has stopped promoting chemical inputs, but we still have private shops selling chemical inputs. So you should not allow them to do that. And then the administration took decision not to renew their licenses. This is the current Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh, the Prime Minister receiving the Adim rice from the farmer of Bhoomgadi, and the President of India receiving, a nice variety called Lokti Machi from a farmer of Bhoomgadi. Uh, there are so based on whatever our experience is, there are certain challenges and points to ponder that I would like to put forward. One definitely came up. FPO is not a silver bullet, and we should not burden. It's just one part of an entire ecosystem that needs to be established in order to strengthen farmers and also promote natural organic farming. But while doing that, we should ensure that the aspirations of the farmers, especially with respect to market, should not be increased very high in order to get their buying to promote to know adopt organic or natural farming. Markets work in a different way, and many times those aspirations, if they fail, then the farmers then again get disenchanted and then start following chemical farming. So the approach should not be this. There are challenges with the diversity, as you see, if you want to promote organic farming, if you want to promote natural farming, having diversity in the field is very important. And then if the focus is on single commodity for the FPO or one district, one product and things like that, then that actually becomes counter to the basic approach. And that is why I believe FPOs working in the natural or organic farming space have to have a mixed commodity approach. There are definitely conflicting interests. Interest of the FPO at times becomes how to achieve sustainability and how to achieve profits for the farmers, whereas the interest of the natural farming and organic farming is to ensure environmental sustainability and then support farmers in that sense. And then that might become conflicting at times because there are many FPOs who sell inputs, and input sale is one important part of their revenue, or market demands farmers to grow a single variety, a single crop in large scale and quantities, whereas that creates challenges if one has to adopt organic or natural farming. And then that is why there is an importance of strong community level institutions which will work or be as an overseer of what an FPO is doing and then keep those checks on the FPO. Organic certification, especially for FPOs working in the space of organic farming, organic certification is an added task which other FPOs would not have to do. And then that has additional costs and challenges as well. And I think one of the challenges that being faced currently is there is an ecosystem of PGS, and then there is an ecosystem of third party having no connection to each other. So there are challenges then faced by FPOs like us to sell PGS certified produce to the aggregators who are buying third party certified produce only. And then also there are challenges in export. So there has to be some kind of an coherency developed in PGS third party certification, or in fact, there are talks about natural certification being done. But I think unless we have some kind of a flow between these certification systems and connect, because market works in a different way, and then that can create separate challenges for farmers who are trying to enter into marketing. There are challenges with small scale technology for processing. When we are working with small and marginal farmers, the availability of produce at times is much lower. And then the efficiency, the availability of...
Please wind up in a minute so that we have some time for discussions.
I'm almost at the end. So these challenges are to be considered. There are challenges with the scale, big trade, and market distortions. At small scale, the sale to direct consumers is possible, but when the scale increases, the big trade gets involved, and then the prices of the commodities have to be very competent. And at times there are market distortions, procurement at by big agencies, government deciding to procure things at MSP, and then that there has to be a role for FPOs when such kind of market decisions are taken by the government, and not always the large big trade market will be favorable for farmers to give fair and favorable prices. The market mechanisms have to be understood, and then only it will work. There are high losses due to lack of infrastructure, especially for organic. There is lack of infrastructure. We face this very critically. There are storage godowns available, but those storage godowns are for chemical produced, or there are chemicals used in those storage godowns. And then because of lack of separate storage mechanism for organic FPOs, that results into heavy losses. And then there are various other challenges being faced. So I think when we consider FPOs as an important player in setting up an ecosystem for supporting natural farming for the farmers, I think these challenges and points to be pondered upon have to be considered. Thank you.
Some information regarding the storage.
Yes.
If they are for pulses and others, the cold storage is a good options and no loss, and they can hire a small area of that cold store and they keep it, and there will be a zero loss and zero quality loss also. We are trying it, we are using it for the pulses and other things so in our area because we are with the organic system. So we are doing this.
Sir, one more sir question from my side, sir. This is Hemsundar, sir. सर
Yeah.
आकाश जी, आपने जो बताया आपने इसमें से जो फसल है उसका जो यील्ड्स कैसे नेचुरल फार्मिंग से कुछ ट्रेडिशनल कन्वेंशनल से या उनका ट्रेडिशनल पद्धति से ये नेचुरल फार्मिंग करने से कुछ उनका यील्ड बढ़ा है क्या, कुछ ऑब्जर्व किया है क्या आप, जो आपने जो क्रॉप्स बताए हैं, the crops which are grown under this traditional system and after adoption of natural farming through your efforts, what is there any change in yield in crops? This is my question, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Rao here.
Yes.
See, now, sir, natural farming, the promotion philosophy, see, just like, the promotion philosophy is for a sustainable farming, not for a, suppose, okay, if I promote natural farming as a profitable venture through an FPO, then the question of positioning, segmentation, targeting, and aiming at premium prices, an agriculture business plan, a diversified plan, see, all these marketing branding strategies will come. But in my opinion, natural farming is a philosophy to be not branded for profit, but it is only to be branded for sustainability and paramparagat krishi and Samruddha Abhiyan. What's your opinion?
Sir, I have one question, sir. How in this Bhoomgadi FPO, how is the price fixed, sir? What is the process of fixation of price? You said the farmers are getting between 20 to 60% over the other market, local market rates. So how is the price fixed, sir?
Yes, Akash, you would like to
Yes.
respond to the questions?
Yes. So, firstly, about cold storage, yes, certainly cold storage can be we have tried that. Only what we faced is the big cold storage. There are still chemicals used to kill rats and other animals, so that creates challenge for us to store organic produce there. But yes, that is a certainly good option for us. We are also trying to use cocoons, hermetic storage system to save losses, but that is for finished and processed goods. But challenges come when we have to store paddy. The increase in the yield, yes, certainly. I mean, wherever the farmers have used only basic cow dung manure and the traditional system of broadcasting, compared to that, when farmers use Jivamrit and a few other techniques, green manuring, and also little changes in the cultivation practices like adoption of transplantation or SRI, we have seen good amount of enhancement in the productivity and enhancement in the condition of the soil also. That is something we have seen. Basic studies that we have done, we have seen increase in the productivity average around 35% through the adoption of these techniques. About the pricing mechanism for setting up prices. So just to give you an understanding, local traders procure paddy at 8 rupees, 9 rupees, 10 rupees, or maximum 11 rupees in the local hard bazaars from the farmers. And then those prices are in a way quite exploitative, those who are not able to connect to the government MSP procurement system. Compared to that, what we do is we have an understanding as to what commodity or what rice can be sold at which particular price in the open market where we are already working with buyers. And then what are our costs and how do we do backward calculation, right? And then also considering the government MSP mechanism, the mandi prices at far off distances, and then comparing all of that, we try to come towards the procurement prices. So where the local trader procurement prices for paddy are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 maximum to 12 rupees, our procurement prices start at 18 rupees, 21 rupees. So we have various gradations that we have done based on the varieties. So 18 rupees, 21 rupees, 24 rupees, till 30 rupees. So that is how the variation in the percentages. And I think what just would like to share that in case of in any case the farmers incomes are low currently, right? And one of the interventions can be FPO. I mean, it is not necessarily entirely the solution and only for profit purposes, but I think the income levels of the farmers are low. And if we have to address that gap, innovations at the marketing level are certainly required. Reduction of costs is very much there, but also innovations at the marketing level are certainly required, I think.
Comparing the prices with the other markets,
Just to give caveat, our procurement prices are related to the kind of quantities that we are procuring. So when we discuss with the farmers, we always discuss that if the production increases quite a lot, then an entire different game starts playing in. And then that is where we may have to revise our procurement prices and we may have to go down a little bit, because then the market ways of marketing also change quite a lot. So this is the current scenario considering the kind of quantities that we are handling currently.
So, the farmers are already gone through all the organic certification, first one, and have you had any traceability for the produce?
Yeah, quick clarification, Akash, on the two.
Yes, so we have a system of traceability for the produce. So when the procurement happens, each and every bag is mapped with the farmers, and we already have a record of the farmers put in place. So the traceability is possible. Only what happens is whenever a lot is being processed, small tribal farmers may have produce as low as 1 or 2 quintals to offer. And then when a lot is processed, you cannot have a single farmer's lot processed in one go. So then you have to club farmers. So that is one challenge, but otherwise the traceability system is in place to a fair extent.
But in support of this, just I would like to share. So some questions has been raised that FPO is different and the natural farming different. It cannot be differentiated in future because the produce has to be produced by every farmer and it is to be marketed into the domestic market, whether export market, whatever it may be. Then it is to be streamlined, and the individual farmer cannot do all these things. He is doing so many things already. He is manager, he is producer, he is processor, whatever it may be. But for marketing, he is facing the challenge. So this is one of the alternative that FPOs, FPCs can support his income, increasing income. Nowadays, now he is facing a lot of problems. So there is no alternative for him to bring together through some of the platform, and local leadership is very important. Unless you provide some local leaders to just collect them and to teach them, to orient them and to bring into the stream, it is very important. It is a challenging job, and your people are doing very nice work. We support you, all of you, but rather just differentiating two things will not possible in future, because marketing, whatever natural produce they will produce, but where they will market, there will be quantum. There will be quantum from if you select one village, there are only 50 farmers. They are going for natural farming out of 200 or 300. Then 50 farmers produce is to be marketable. It is to be marketed. Somewhere it is to be marketed. And how they will going to market this one? So who is going to purchase? This linkage to be developed through some of the platform, and this is, I think, and it is their choice whether to go for FPC or their own group or own. It is their choice. So we cannot divide them from coming together and to form a company or form a group or form any platform. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Prof. I think you
question, sir.
Partly
question, sir.
Question. Yes, Hariji.
सर मैं बिहार से हूं और मेरा सर सबमिशन है कि बिहार में दो तरह के कंडीशंस सर हैं. एक तो फ्लड प्रोन एरिया है, सबमर्जेंट एरिया है और वाटर लॉगिंग एरिया है, जहां पे किसानों के द्वारा बिल्कुल ही केमिकल फर्टिलाइजर का यूज नहीं किया जाता है, देसी सीड्स का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है. तो क्या उस क्षेत्र को नेचुरल फार्मिंग एरिया मान लिया जाए? और जहां पे एक्सटेंशन वर्क संस्थानों के द्वारा कम किया गया है, वहां पे आज भी किसानों के द्वारा फर्टिलाइजर यूज कम किया जाता है, केमिकल्स का यूज कम किया जाता है और देसी सीड्स का यूज किया जाता है. क्या उस एरिया को नेचुरली उसको मान लिया जाए, नेचुरल फार्मिंग एरिया मान लिया जाए?
तो तो
सर
मानने ना मानने की बात तो मार्केट डिसाइड करेगी सर। तो हम तो कह सकते हैं कि हाँ इसको नेचुरल फार्मिंग ही मान सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर इसको डिफरेंशिएट करके मार्केट में कहना है तो उसका कोई पद्धति वगैरह तो चुनना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि जैसे इनकी जगह पे तो ये शायद डिफॉल्ट ऑर्गेनिक भी हो सकता है, लेकिन उनको प्रूव करके ये ट्रेसेबिलिटी वगैरह करके सर्टिफिकेशन भी करना है। इफ यू वांट टू ट्राई वेदर, चाहे वो पीजीएस हो या ऑर्गेनिक सर्टिफिकेशन हो, some mechanism so that the trust of the consumer with the farmer's produce is maintained. So that we have to work on. Therefore, there are these intermediary institutions which we have to also strengthen. So PGS is one mechanism to make that.
I think this is a very genuine issue. Whether to just standardize the process to analyze the organic content or organic produce or natural produce. It is very important. Otherwise, so from last 25, I am just observing anything has been administered for the organic, because farmer are not administering. Some of the middlemen or some of the agencies that just advertising for organic products, they may be just harvesting some of the situations, but farmers are get suffered, and they ultimately farmers are blamed. So this is
it's already happening in the millet space. Everyone's claiming organic, etc. So we'll have to work much more on this. But I think it's still emerging.
Can I add? Sir,
yes.
Can I add something, sir?
Yes, yes, Arunji. You may have the last one.
The person from Bihar who was saying that that particular area is flood prone area. As far as my knowledge is there, I am working with this organic clusters for the last 6 years. Ethically, the flooded areas are not considered as this organic or natural farming, because a lot of chemicals from the industrial area and all those sewerage is there. So these areas can't be called as natural farming or organic farming. Sir.